So David Tennant, the legend himself, will be the 14th Doctor, and while the reactions to the return of David Tennant are mostly positive, it seems there's some negative reactions to Tennant returning as the 14th Doctor. The reasons for the negative reactions could be due to some fans just being tired of David Tennant always being involved with something in Doctor Who, like he's in a lot of Big Finish stuff, he was in a couple of video game stuff. It seems like they're still promoting a lot of David Tennant in Doctor Who, and I think it rubs some fans the wrong way for some reason. There's also the fact that some fans just don't like David Tennant that much as the Doctor, or they don't believe an old face should return as a future Doctor, or it could be really anything at this point, because I've seen so many different reasonings behind some of the negative reactions to David Tennant being the 14th Doctor. I believe it's mostly a positive thing that Tennant is returning, but I do have some little negative things to say about Tennant being the 14th Doctor. First off, I agree with David Tennant being the lead of the 60th anniversary and heavily promoting that he is the main Doctor for the upcoming 60th anniversary specials. After the Chibs era, the show needs to reunite and heal the fandom. Bring fans back that left during the Moffat and Chibs era by having Tennant return. I also feel I need to see one of my favorite Doctors back so I can get the bad taste out of my mouth that is the Chibs era. Honestly, I almost quit the show during the Chibnall era because I really was just not enjoying anything about the show. The only reason why I stuck around is because of the announcement that Chibnall was leaving the show, but I still wasn't really that excited for the show again because the showrunner possibly could have been someone worse than Chibnall. Who knows who they were going to hire for the next showrunner after Chris Chibnall. Then we got the great news that Russell T Davies was announced to be returning to Doctor Who as the showrunner, and I almost cried because I couldn't believe my favorite showrunner that this show has ever had was returning. Okay, I didn't almost cry, but I was actually excited for the show again for the first time in such a long time. Doctor Who means so much to me. Like, Doctor Who was one of the first shows I ever watched. It came out in like 2005. I was like 3 years old watching Doctor Who. It was like literally one of the first shows I ever watched after my like little kid show phase. I've grown up watching this show, and this show's been around pretty much my entire life. It was something me and my dad always watched. I dressed up as the Doctor on Halloween a couple times. I was in Doctor Who fan clubs. I bought Doctor Who action figures. Everything. Doctor Who was like my world at like certain points in my life. Like, I love Doctor Who so much, and no matter what happens going forward, it will forever be one of my all-time favorite TV shows. Then Chibs came along in his era of writing and everything, and for the first time I wanted to quit the show, especially after the timeless crapper reveal. Also, my friends that watched Doctor Who dropped the show during the Chibnall era, and my dad stopped watching during the Chibnall era too. To be fair, things were going a bit downhill before that. Like, Series 9 to me was the first bad season of the show, but it still had its good moments, and I think Series 10 was great. I think it's one of my favorite seasons of New Who. But I think during the Capaldi era is when things really were just kind of like declining, and I felt like the popularity of the show was just going down a little bit from what I was noticing. And then the Chibnall era happened, and then the popularity was just like non-existent. At least that's my experience as an American. I'm not in the UK, so I'm sure Doctor Who is still like live and well, but it's just my experience. The popularity of Doctor Who died. And also, I didn't really see like Doctor Who merchandise in stores anymore. I remember like always getting Doctor Who merchandise and stuff from like Barnes & Noble and other stores here and there, and now I can barely find any Doctor Who stuff at stores. I mean, if I want to get Doctor Who stuff now, I just mainly get everything online. Point is, with Russell T Davies returning along with Tennant, it feels like the show is back from the hell that it was the Chibnall era, and I think many fans agree, like, the show feels like it's coming back for the first time in a long time. I mean, I know the Chibnall era exists, but I feel the excitement for Doctor Who again. I feel the excitement in my environment for Doctor Who again. And I feel like this is going to be a good thing with Russell T Davies returning in David Tennant. It's going to like be a nice healing for the fan base. Also, with all the fans that are going to be coming back because of David Tennant and Russell T Davies, like with all those announcements, it's going to be a nice transition into a brand new era that I think will be pretty good, or even the best era of the show yet, with the Ncuti Gatwa 15th Doctor era. Now, with David Tennant returning, I feel he could have still been in the lead of the 60th anniversary without actually making Tennant the 14th Doctor. They could have just made the 10th Doctor be the lead of the 60th anniversary instead of Tennant being the 14th Doctor. This also means Tennant is most likely never going to return again as a future face when he is much older, which is a bit disappointing because ever since the idea of old Doctor Who actors coming back as future incarnations was a thing, David Tennant was one of the actors I would have liked to see come back when he was much older as a future incarnation, because I'm very curious how he would have played the role, and He is one of the best doctors of all time, in my opinion, and I think he has the right to return. And like Tom Baker said in the 50th anniversary, the Doctor will be revisiting some old faces, but only the favorites, and David Tennant is a favorite, so I think it would have made sense for him to one day return as a future incarnation full-time. I think an older Tennant returning as the Doctor full-time would have been very cool, and I am curious how an older Tennant would portray the Doctor. I also believe it's too soon for Tennant to be a future incarnation. Like, he just left the role not too long ago, and also he still looks young enough to play the 10th Doctor, so why not actually have him play the 10th Doctor again? It's also kind of crazy that the Doctor has regenerated into Tennant 3 times now, but you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. It's just like a little negatives here and here, and I think it kind of is a shame that we're never going to see David Tennant ever come back as the Doctor again, as like him much older. And maybe he still can, but do we really want the Doctor to regenerate into Tennant 4 times? Like, that's kind of crazy, and I think that's a little unrealistic even for Doctor Who. So like I said, the news about Tennant being the 14th Doctor is a very good thing. And I'm very excited for David Tennant being the 14th Doctor and returning. Just excited to see David Tennant be the lead of the 60th anniversary. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about the many possibilities that could happen with Tennant being the 14th Doctor, because there's so many interesting and cool things that they could do with the idea that Tennant is not the 10th Doctor. This version of Doc Tennant is the 14th Doctor. Now, I don't know what they want to do with the 14th Doctor, and 14 could just be the 10th Doctor 2.0 with little to no differences between 10 and 14, and maybe they won't even acknowledge it. I have no idea, but I hope they do a little something different. They could play with a lot of ideas with Tennant as 14. They should take advantage of the fact that this is the 14th Doctor, but with the face of the 10th Doctor. The Doctor is always growing as a person, and he is so much older from when he was the 10th Doctor. I'm sure David will play the Doctor pretty much the same way he played the 10th Doctor. I hope not, but it looks like that will be the case. But this new Tennant Doctor has experienced new things and met new friends since when he was the 10th Doctor. Maybe we can have some fun with that, like within the 60th anniversary specials, the fact that this is not the 10th Doctor, and it all should be a lot of fun, and it's obviously going to be revolving around Donna, at least for one part of the special. I don't know about the other specials. Also, the 14th Doctor will not have the burden of the Time War, like, raining on his shoulders like he did with the 10th Doctor, so I'm not sure if Tennant will be portraying the Doctor a bit differently. I know the Doctor is still going to have PTSD at the end of the day, because he's, like, over like 2,000 years old, experienced a lot of death and a lot of tragedy, and I know I feel like every Doctor post Time War, like in New Who, should have a bit of like tragedy to the Doctor through the way the actor performs as the Doctor. But I feel like the Time War won't be like a heavy theme with this Doctor. Also, knowing that this is an anniversary special, usually that means a multi-Doctor story will be part of this special. I'm hoping that's the case. If it's not the case, I'm going to be really disappointed. But I'm just hoping for a good story at the end of the day. If the 14th Doctor is part of a multi-Doctor story, I would hope the 11th and 12th Doctors would be part of that story. Plus, there's a bit of a twist if they do end up having a multi-Doctor story together, because normally when Tennant as the Doctor has anything to do with 11 and 12, they would be his future selves, but now those Doctors are part of his past. The reactions to the whole situation could be so much fun and different. I would love to see Tennant, Smith, and Capaldi in this special together either way, whether Tennant is playing the 14th Doctor or the 10th Doctor. Something that could be pretty cool as well is if we get to see the 10th Doctor in any of the specials as well. Like, just imagine the 14th Doctor meeting the 10th Doctor. I would just love to see the interactions they would have and the confusion that would cause. Yes, I know, it would just be David Tennant talking to David Tennant, and that's a lot of David Tennant. But it could make for some funny scenes, and they are, at the end of the day, 2 different Doctors. Also, maybe some former companions of 11 and 12 could be there too, like say maybe Amy and Rory, or Clara, or maybe even Bill. Tennant's Doctors wouldn't normally know who they are, but this Tennant Doctor does, and will probably be really happy to see them again. Also, if the 10th Doctor's there, maybe one of his companions could be there too. Well, obviously Donna's going to be there no matter what, but maybe like Rose or Martha could be in the 60th anniversary as their Series 2 or 3 version of themselves. Also, one more interesting interaction that could happen with Tennant as the 14th Doctor is if the 14th Doctor ends up having some sort of adventure with River Song during the 60th anniversary. Or she just makes an appearance at some point during one of the 3 specials. Imagine Tennant as the Doctor going on an adventure with River and his reaction to seeing her again. I think that whole thing could be pretty cool. Like last time we saw Tennant's Doctor interact with River, he had no idea who she was. This time David Tennant as the Doctor would know who River Song is because of what happened with River during the time he was the 11th and 12th Doctor. Again, I don't know if River will be in the 60th, but I think she should be because it's the 60th anniversary. Like, bring back as many characters as possible, but do it in a way that makes sense for the characters and for the story that's going on during the 60th anniversary. All we know for certain when it comes to the 14th Doctor is it seems that the 14th Doctor doesn't really know who he is anymore based off the couple lines in the 60th anniversary trailer. I'm sure he's going to be really confused as why he's the 10th Doctor again. Maybe he'll be happy to be the 10th Doctor again because maybe he just, I don't know. I mean, I think it would be pretty cool to be a past version of yourself. I'm curious how they'll explore like him being a former face and how that might affect him in a positive or negative way. There's a lot of unknown territory when it comes to being a former face. So, I mean, I don't think that's any kind of territory anything has ever explored before. So, I'm very curious of how they're going to handle that. I hope they handle it in an interesting way, not just barely acknowledged at all. Maybe we will not see any of this stuff with the 14th Doctor, but the potential with the 14th Doctor being really interesting and just having a great story is there. Like, this is David Tennant, but with the memories and experiences of the 11th, 12th, and yes, even the 13th Doctor. Hopefully whatever they talk about with the 13th Doctor has nothing to do with the timeless children. Maybe they could just mention, hey, last time you saw me, I became a woman or something. I don't know what they would do, but hey, mention the Doctor was a woman. I think that could be some pretty interesting conversations. The potential of what could happen with the 14th Doctor is one of the many reasons why I'm so excited for the 60th anniversary. The 60th anniversary specials are going to be coming very soon, and I can't freaking wait to see what's in store for the 14th Doctor.